So this is going to be the week 1, assignment 1, functions of government and basic tenets thereof. This is a 3-part series. The first part, we're going to discuss and explain in our own words the functions of government based upon what we have learned from the assigned reading for the week. Part 2, we're going to explain in our own words what the basic tenets of American democracy are and what that means to me as an American citizen. And lastly, in part 3, we're going to consider the time period when our country was established and these functions and tenets that were established by the founders. We're also going to address whether or not these functions and tenets are still available and relevant today. The purpose of all government was laid out by the founders in the Declaration of Independence. Our founders recognized certain truths, of course listed in the preamble, which were self-evident so that even uneducated poor men could understand them. They recognized that all men, God's creation, are created equal in the eyes of the Father, whom endowed his creation with certain liberties, rights, and laws. That among these were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The functions of government were established and instituted among the people to secure, not grant, but to secure these rights. Thus, these are the true and only functions of government, next to those mentioned in the Constitution of the United States. For the second part, we first need to fix the misspelling in the prompt of the word constitutional republic. Constitutional republic is not spelled American democracy, and America was never intended to be a democracy, nor is the word democracy found anywhere in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. All for good reasons, though. First, let's analyze the basic forms of government that the founders had to choose from, then explain why we are not a democracy. There are 5 basic forms of government, which are monarchy, which is the rule by one, an oligarchy, which is the rule by a group, a democracy, which is ruled by the majority, a republic, which is ruled by law, and anarchy, which is ruled by none. And most of these can further be narrowed down to just 2 forms of government, a republic and an oligarchy. While monarchies are said to be the rule of one dictator, they really don't exist because whether it be a dictator, a king, a pope, a lord, commissar, etc., they still have those behind the scenes like the czars, the commissioners, the bureaucrats that make the dictator the front man. Monarchy is not really true to its meaning and is really just an oligarchy, which is the rule of a group. Oligarchy is and has been the most common form of government throughout all of human history. Under anarchy, there is no government, so there is nobody to guard basic liberties of the people. Everyone is responsible for their own safety and well-being. Anarchy usually takes root under oppressive oligarchical forms of government as the people learn that oligarchy results in evil, so they think no government is the solution. Extreme violence in an attempt to throw off the current government results and yet continues as there is no government to establish a rule of law and a premise for basic rights and liberties. As the people grow tired of all the chaos, who better to stop it than those that created it? Of course, the anarchists, from which the anarchist will then form a government and seize power. Historically, each time this has happened, it becomes an oligarchy, as both Russia under Lenin and Germany under Hitler are shining examples of. Anarchy ends in oligarchy, so we can eliminate anarchy as well. The word democracy comes from 2 Greek words. The first, demos, meaning people, and the second, kratein, which means to rule. Or better stated, democracy means people to rule or majority rule. This is where most think it sounds good, but it is also where everyone tends to get it wrong. Suppose, the majority of people decided that they wanted to take away a person's business. They wanted to take away their home, bank accounts, guns, and heck, even their kids. The largest issue with a democracy is that the majority is not restrained. And if more than half of the people are convinced they want something in a democracy, they rule. The word republic comes from 2 Latin words, res meaning thing and publica meaning public, meaning public thing or the law. In a republic, the government is limited by the rule of law and leaves the people alone. The founders did have a blank piece of paper to form a government on, and could have, in fact, formed an oligarchy or any other type of tyrannical system. There were some people who even demanded that General George Washington become our first king. But since the founders knew history, they would not be doomed to repeat it. For this, the founders gave us the rule of law in a constitutional republic, not a democracy, but a constitutional republic, and not the rule of the public in an unconstitutional democracy. And to further illustrate this point, James Madison even wrote in Federalist Paper 10, quote, "Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths," unquote. Samuel Adams also agreed. He stated that democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself, quote unquote. Alexander Hamilton also shared many of the same views of Adams and Madison. He was quoted saying, "We are a republican government. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy," quote unquote. The founders knew all about democracy because they studied history. In the ancient Greek city-states, democracies produced some of the most bloated and oppressive governments known to human history. In every single case, these Greek city-states ended up with mob rule, then anarchy, which erupted finally into tyranny under an oligarchic form of government. Democracy is no stable form of government, and every time it is implemented, it acts as a transition mechanism from limited government to the unlimited tyrannical rule of an oligarchy every single time throughout history. So at the end of this, what are really the basic tenets of the American constitutional republic? And they are really simple. And of course, this is my opinion and this is how I see it. The first one can be said that all are created equal. God, not government, grants rights. Government secures them. America is a constitutional republic. Third, the rule of law restricts the government. Fourth, the Constitution was meant for a moral and righteous people. Fifth, checks and balances, including the vertical and horizontal separation of powers. Sixth, liberty for the individual to follow their own will without hindrance or let. And last but not least, for the individual not to be subject to the inconsistent or unknown will of another, including those who are in office. So there are more than just a few basic tenets to the overall scope and picture of what the founders painted for our country. The functions and tenets of the original government can still be applicable if we wish to apply them. Sadly, today in America, our elected officials have abandoned these tenets altogether in the principles that made America great. A return to the original Constitution and pure application of the document can and will restore the country back to our humble beginnings. Part of the problem is we have failed to teach these principles throughout grade school, and in college we must rely on some communist Marxist manifesto crap to slowly propagandize us further away from what America was intended to be and try to convince us that somehow democracy is the next greatest thing to slice bread. No thanks. So if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, check us out on Gunstreamer and the World Wide Web at www.thegunpsy.com. That's thegunpsy.com. Thanks for watching.